Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of the Kill Team Chronicles. This is battle report number 3. It is a Feint battle report that is fought between my friends Scream of the Emo as well as Grom the Paunch. Scream of the Bremo is bringing the red faction, his Genestealer Cults kill team, and my buddy Grom the Paunch is bringing the Cradle of Filth, a Death Guard kill team. So both these kill teams will be facing off each other for the very first time. We're kind of excited to get these battle reports on a roll. This one's kind of a neat one because instead of fighting in an urban environment, we're fighting on a more of a natural environment. So we kind of see what goes on. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what each of the kill teams is bringing, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the mission for this one. The mission is called Feint, and on this one my two friends are playing an attacker and a defender. The red faction will be the defenders on this one, and my buddy Grom the Paunch will be the attackers with his Cradle of Filth. The goal is for the attacker to destroy objectives spread throughout the entire battlefield, and the defender of course is trying to stop the attacker. For the defender earns +2 victory points for each objective marker that is secured, while the attacker earns 1 victory point for each destroyed objective marker. They also get +1 victory point if they defeat the kill team by breaking the defending kill team, and +1 victory point for each enemy specialist that goes out of action as well. So on this one, the player with the most victory points of course wins. If a defender loses, the defender loses 1 from his material as well as 1 from his territory, and if the defender wins, the attacker loses 1 from his territory. And there are 6 objective markers that will be located on the battlefield. Alright, so let's go talk about the battle plan real quick. So as you can see, my friends are now fighting on a 30 by 22 inch battle board. It is located in the middle of the entire battlefield. We kind of decorate the entire 4x6 table just because it looks cool, just because having a small little table in the middle of the battlefield seems kind of weird. But as you can see here though, they're fighting in an old industrial site on a planet somewhere far away. It's like an old mining works. As you can see, my buddy Scream with the Emo, he's deploying the far side with his red faction, while my other friend Grom the Paunch's Cradle of Filth is located on the near side of the table. And as you can see, scattered throughout the battlefield, we have 6 objective markers spread throughout. And the goals here, of course, is for the attacker to destroy those objective markers and for the defender to stop them and to protect them as well. So that being said, let's go ahead and zoom in real close to see exactly where all the objectives are located at. Here's a close-up of objective number 1, which is located on the left-hand flank of Grom the Paunch's deployment zone. So he's got a couple members of his Cradle of Filth surrounding that one. Objective number 2 is located on the top of the MCI Chemical Works tower on the very top of that platform, so that's where you can find objective number 2. Objective number 3 is located on the left-hand deployment of Scream of the Emo's red faction. Objective number 4 is located kind of in the middle of Scream of the Emo's deployment zone. As you can see, he has a couple of members of his Genestealer Neophyte hybrids, kind of like holding down the fort and putting some overwatch over that objective. Objective number 5 is located on the right hand side of the battlefield on top of the walkway for the MCI Chemical Works tank farm. And finally, objective number 6 is located on the top of the water tower for the MCI Chemical Works facility as well. So that makes up all the close-ups for the objectives. So with that being done, let's go and talk about deployment real quick. So starting with the Cradle of Filth on the left-hand side, up in the front of the formation is a little fire team. Up in the front, of course, is the leader. Right behind him on the right-hand side is my buddy Grom the Paunch's heavy gunner, and on the left-hand side is a member of his regular fire team. He's just a normal plague marine armed with a bolt gun and plague knife. I believe the leader is also carrying a plasma gun and a power fist, and the heavy on the right-hand side is carrying a blight launcher, is what they get equipped with. And on the far right hand deployment is the other 3 members of the kill team. Up in the front is a demolitions expert, no, sorry, not a demolition expert, just a normal fire team member of a normal plague marine armed with a bolt gun and plague knife. On the left hand side is the not the combat veteran. I believe, yeah, just a normal veteran is what he is. Just a normal veteran. He's armed with a plasma gun as well. And on the right hand side is the demolitions expert who's armed with a bolt gun, blight grenades, and plague knife. And that makes up my buddy Ground the Punch's deployment for this one. For the red faction, for the Genestealer Cults, on the left-hand side, those are 3 aberrants. Up in the front is the aberrant leader. There's also the commander of this kill team as well, so that's the leader specialist. The other 2 aberrants are just members of a fire team, and they're kind of protecting the objective marker on the left-hand side. In the center of the battlefield, my friend Scream the Emo has put 2 more of his specialists. He has his Acolyte who's carrying, not his Acolyte, his Neophyte Hybrid who's carrying the Cult Icon. That's his comm specialist. In the center there, that is Holland the Shipbreaker. That is a heavy who's armed with a mining laser. That's also another specialist. He's a gunner specialist. And then right next to him on the right hand side is a normal Neophyte Hybrid of part of a fire team. And that guy's armed with a grenade launcher. And those 3 guys are looking over objective located there in the middle of the table. And on the far right hand side, I forgot to mention on the previous photo, Zadok Allen, which is the Acolyte Hybrid. He was located in the middle of the table. And on the far right hand side is my friend's combat specialist, which is the Genestealer. I believe he's called the Elder Devil is what he's called, and he's looking on the very far right hand side. So with the deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and both my friends roll for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so that takes us to the bottom of turn number 1 after the move phase. My friend Ground the Punch managed to win this initiative on this one, so because of that, the Death Guard do go first. As you can see in this photo, a lot of dynamic moves kind of taking place. First off, on the left-hand side, the Death Guard start pushing their advance forward by moving up an advancement from one of the kill team, one of the regular Plague Marine fire team members. He does an advance roll, so that way he gets up on the top of that second platform on the tower there. He's trying to make his work up to the very top of that tower, so that way he can get access to that objective marker. At the same time, he also moves up his leader forward slightly, so that way he can put down some covering fire, as well as leaves his heavy behind, so that way he can give him priority of fire and activates him for that, so that way they can shoot during the shooting phase as well. At the same time, on the left-hand side, my buddy Scream with Emo starts maneuvering his forces forward. He advances up with one of his aberrants on the top of the walkway there next to the MCI tower. He also moves up 2 members of his aberrants as well, moving them to the middle of the tower works there on the left-hand side, so that way they can start putting some pressure on the left-hand flank. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, my buddy Ground the Punch advances forward with his veteran, who's armed with a plasma gun, has him climb to the top of the water tower there, so that way the next turn he can secure the objective number 6 on the top there. He also moves up his one of his normal Plague Marines forward as well, so that way he can start making his way towards the center of the battlefield, lay down some suppressive fire against the red faction at the other end of the table. And of course, on the right-hand side, my buddy Screaming Emo charged forward with his Genestealer. Because he rolled a 5 up on the beginning of the phase, his Genestealer does move up 6 inches. When he rolled the dice to see how far his charge went, he went a full 12 inches. So because of that, he was able to button hook around the water tower, and then engage the Plague Marine there on the right hand side as well. So because of that guy will be engaged in close combat as well. I believe that guy is the demolitions expert who's engaged in close combat. And that pretty much makes up turn number 1 for movement phase for this one. Here's a close-up of all the maneuvering that's taking place on the left-hand side. As you can see, the aberrants are starting to move forward through that MCI chemical area to start engaging members of the Death Guard on the left-hand side. You can also see the Death Guard moving up to the top of that tower to secure objective number 2, as well as his 2 other Death Guard Marines kind of protecting the main objective and getting ready to lay some suppressive fire down with that blight launcher. On the far side of the table, my buddy Scream with Emo decides to keep his 3 little Neophyte Hybrids right where they're at. He decides to give them priority markers so that way they can start shooting in the shooting phase. So that's where they're located at. And here's a close-up of the far right-hand side. As you can see, we have the demolitions expert for the Death Guard being engaged by that Genestealer. He also has his regular Plague Marine moving up to the left-hand side to head towards the center of the battlefield, and he moves up his veteran to the top of that water tower to start securing the objective. And here's a close-up of Zadok Allen, the Acolyte Hybrid. He starts advancing over on the right-hand side as well to the right-hand flank, so that way he can also start putting pressure onto the Death Guard as well. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase because there's no Psychers in either of these kill teams. So starting off at the beginning of the shooting phase, my buddy the Paunch takes aim with his Plague Marine Heavy Gunner, who's armed with a Blight Launcher, has him open up onto one of the Black Brothers, which is located in the center of the table. I believe that is Zybin Black is who he starts shooting at with his Blight Launcher. Unfortunately for him though, he was able to wound the guy, so that was kind of fortunate, but unfortunately was unable to put any out of action rolls on this guy. It's because that Aberrant is suffering a -1 to his hit skill rolls because he's been flesh wounded. So unfortunately no kills yet for the Death Guard in this one. However, when it came to the Genestealer Cults, my buddy Scream with the Emo activates Holland the Shipbreaker, which is his heavy gunner armed with a mining laser. He also spends a command point as well for more bullets trait, so that way that heavy gunner gets +1 one other shot with his mining laser. Not only does he manage to hit the heavy gunner for the Plague Marines twice, he also manages to wound him twice as well. I think it cost him like 5 wounds in total, so when they rolled for the dice to see what happens to him, rolled out of action on that part. So because of that, that gunner is down, netting first blood for Scream of the Emo as well as Red Faction on this one. Not wanting to be outdone by the Genestealer Cults, my buddy Cradle of Filth activates his leader, who takes aim with his plasma gun and manages to put finally the last wound onto the Aberrant as well, manages to put that guy out of action too. So because of that, he will also have to roll up on the injury table and see what happens to him as well. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. And combat phase between both the Demolitions Expert as well as his Genestealer does not much really happens actually. They both just kind of square off on each other. Both of them kind of failed their rolls to wound is what it was. They do manage to hit one another, but unfortunately they're unable to wound at all. Just a bunch of 1s and 2s for the most part when it came to the wounding. So because of that, these two characters will still be engaged in close combat. In the morale phase, everyone passes their morale tests and nerve tests, so we go to the end of the battle round, and my buddy Ground the Paunch burns one of his command points in order to use the attacker's tactic for the scenario, where he gets to destroy the objective, nets himself 2 victory points by destroying objective number 1. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and both my friends roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so that takes us to the top of turn number 2. This photo is taken after the move phase. My friend Ground the Paunch managed to secure the initiative on this one. So starting off from the bat, he decides to charges in his leader over directly to charge the leader of the kill team for the Genestealer Cults. Because of that, Mordecai Black as well as Sherbog the Riven, which is the leader of the Death Guard, those two guys will be engaged in close combat. So it's kind of neat. It's like kill team leader versus kill team leader. Not to be outdone with the charges though, my friend Scream of the Emo then activates his other Aberrant that's still on the ground. I believe that is Zybin Black, I believe is his name. He charges and makes a successful charge across that platform directly into the other Plague Marine on the top of that platform, so that way they'll be fighting it out before they get to the top of the objective. At the same time, on the right hand side, another charge also takes place. My buddy Ground the Paunch charges in his regular Plague Marine directly into Zadok Allen, the Acolyte Hybrid, on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side. So because of those two guys will be engaged in close combat. The Elder Devil as well as the, I forgot the guy's name. He's the Demolitions Expert for the Death Guard. Those two guys are still engaged in close combat. My buddy Ground the Paunch then also moves up his regular Plague Marine veteran who's armed with a plasma gun to the top of the tower, so that way he secures the objective over there, and because he used normal movement allowance, he will be able to shoot. At the same time, my friend Scream of the Emo then spends the rest of the turn activating his other three neophytes on the far side of the table, so that way they can shoot first in the shooting phase. And that pretty much makes it the move phase for turn number 2. Here's a close-up of the charge that took place on the left-hand side, so you can see both Aberrants are engaged with the Plague Marines, and they'll be fighting it out. And you can see in the bottom there, you can see the 2 kill team leaders engaging in close combat, getting ready to throw down to see who will be dominant in the combat phase. And here's a close-up of the veteran engaging into the objective on the top, as well as the Demolitions Expert and the Genestealer engaging in close combat on the right-hand side. And finally, here's a close-up of the Plague Marine engaging in close combat with the Acolyte Hybrid, and those guys will also be fighting out in the close combat phase. And finally, here's a close-up of the 3 Neophyte Hybrids just standing their ground and getting ready to shoot for the next shooting phase. So that being said, we go directly to the shooting phase because neither kill team has a Psyker. And in the shooting phase, tragedy strikes once again for the Death Guard. As you can see, Holland the Shipbreaker, which is the heavy gunner for the Red Faction, he takes aim with his mining laser again. My buddy Scream of the Emo burns up another command point to use the more bullets ability, so that way he gets to get 2 shots off of that mining laser. Both those shots managed to hit the veteran, also managed to wound as well, and I think they rolled 6. I think he rolled like 6 wounds when he ended up doing these guys. So because of that, he does go out of action, and because of that, my buddy Ground the Paunch loses another specialist for his team. And that was the only shooting that took place because everybody else is engaged in close combat. So speaking of close combat, we go directly to the combat phase. And in the combat phase, the fight between Sherbog the Riven as well as Mordecai Black, the leader of the Red Faction, they fight out in close combat. Unfortunately for my buddy ground the paunch. He tried to attack with his power fist, but unfortunately for him, because it's the -1 to hit with that roll, he just flooded both his rolls. I think he rolled a 1 and a 2, so because of that, he doesn't manage to land a single blow against Mordecai Black. Mordecai Black also has to suffer the same rules as well by using his power hammer, but he does manage to get one of his attacks and it manages to hit. Not only does he manage to hit, but he also wounds as well, and puts those 3 wounds on top of the leader for the Plague Marines. Unfortunately for my buddy Ground the Paunch, his leader does go out of action for the combat phase, so things are looking very, very bad for the Cradle of Filth. Meanwhile, the combat between the Plague Marine as well as this regular Aberrant, nothing really happens. They both kind of flood their rolls to hit as well as to wound, so because of that, these two will be squaring off against each other again the next combat phase for turn number 3. And Disaster strikes again for the Plague Marines as well. The Demolition Expert does go out of action. The Genestealer, the Elder Devil, when he rolled for his attacks, he was attacking with his Rending Claws, rolled natural 6s for 2 of his attacks. So because of that, the Plague Marine gets no armor saves whatsoever, so he goes out of action as well. So he will also need to roll up on the injury table. And just to let you guys know, that means all 4 specialists for the Cradle of Filth are now out of action on this one. However, Ground the Paunch does manage to secure a victory in the combat phase. His normal Plague Marine does manage to put Zadok Allen out of action as well using his Plague Knife. What ended up happening is when we went to wound him, he actually rolled a 1 on that bar, but because he's using a Plague Weapon, he gets to re-roll wounds of 1 for Plague Weapons, and he managed to land a 6 on that part. So because of that, he does manage to kill Zadok Allen and put him out of action as well. So that being said, that goes directly to the morale phase. And as at this point that my buddy Grell the Grim decides to call the game, he decides to tactically withdraw because unfortunately for him, all of his specialists are out of action. He only has 2 normal Plague Marines left, and he realizes he really can't do much of that. He doesn't want to lose the rest of his kill team. So because of that, the Red Faction automatically win this battle report. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the post game because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, now it's time for the post game. This is the part of the battle report we talk about exactly what happens to each of the kill teams in terms of resources, casualties, as well as experience. So, starting off with the post game for the Kill Team Chronicles number 3, we have the losers of the battle report, which is the Cradle of Filth, the Death Guard kill team. For the resources, because they lost this battle report and they lost this mission, as a penalty, they lose -1 to their territory. So because of that, the Cradle of Filth territory drops down to 5. So not so bad in terms of losing resources for this scenario. However, my friend Ground the Paunch does suffer 4 casualties in this one. All 4 of them are his specialists. That is Sherbolg the Riven, his leader, Gerlach the Pestilent, which is his, I believe, his demolitions expert, Viewbox the Belligerent, which is his veteran, and Residius the Reeking as well. So because that, all these guys get injured, but luckily for him though, all 4 specialists do make full recoveries. He's getting pretty lucky on that part as well. For experience advancements, none really takes place at this time. However, everyone does get experience points for participating in the battle. And I believe Gerlach the Pestilent, which is the heavy gunner, he also gets +1 experience for using his ability as well. And that pretty much makes up the results for the post game for the Cradle of Filth. Now then, as for the Red Faction, for the resources, none of the resources were gained or lost for this battle report because they managed to successfully defend the objectives on this one. My buddy Scream of the Ego does suffer 2 casualties. That is Zyban Black, who is one of the Aberrants. He rolls the hard knocks on the recovery table, but because he's just a member of the fire team, he just makes a normal full recovery, so nothing happens to him. As well as Zadok Allen, the Alkalite, he also makes a full recovery as well. For experience, Holland the Shipbreaker actually earned 4 points of experience because the number of successful hits he managed to take out, also managed to taking out rival rival specialists, and also the skills that he uses as well. So because he does advance to level 2, he learns the suppressor skill, which means that any enemies that he engages in fire, they suffer a -1 to shoot penalties, so that part's kind of cool. And he also learns the overwhelming firepower tactic as well, so because of that, he kind of gets some more benefits for his kill team. And that's going to do it for this one, you guys. That's going to round it up for the Kill Team Chronicles battle report number 3. As always, please feel free to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Google+, as well as blogger.com for all the latest hobby news. And please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is appreciated as always. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We will catch you guys in the next one. You guys keep it classy. Peace out.